Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chelmsford Art Society's April demonstration of fine art. We have David Johnson here this time, and he's going to show how he creates his beautiful wire bonsai trees. I just told you my husband has a whole bunch of real ones, so I think we need to have you over to show him, because these are amazing. He would just flip. So the Chelmsford Art Society is, what is it? We turned 50 in 2020, but we didn't count that because 2020 didn't happen. Maybe we'll celebrate at 55. But we have been around that long. We have a wonderful organization of fantastic artists, everything from someone who has never created art to someone that exhibits on Papers Week. And we have all sorts of media, wire sculpture. We had a found object sculptor. We actually had several sculptors. Painters, charcoal drawings. I'm a photographer. But the Art Society has only survived because we have great members, but we also have volunteers. So this is a call out for all members, and even if you're not a member, even if you're not an artist, please come, take a look at us, go on our website. We would love to have you volunteer an hour, an evening, a day, anything. It's called micro-volunteering. We will not quicksand you. We just ask for everyone to give a little bit of time. We will be having elections in the fall. We haven't had elections in years. Well, the world was on pause. But we will be having them. Coming up, our next demo is Tim Palin. I'm very excited. He is a photographer, digital artist, and you know how they have movie trailers? He does book trailers. So, book trailers. So, James Patterson has a new book, and now you suddenly see a book trailer for the new novel. He does that. Then we will have in June, we have a mix and mingle. So another party, members all welcome, non-members, anybody that likes art, wants to support the creative economy, come on down. And then our biggest event, big tradition in Chelmsford, is the 4th of July Festival. That definitely needs many hands to make that big event come off. Many hands make light work. So I think that's, we have volunteer forms, member survey forms, if you haven't filled one out, members. And also information about past demos, everything. Please share with your friends. And housekeeping, this is being recorded, so turn your cell phones on silent. Thank you.
Nobody calls me. I'm Dave Johnson, or what's left of Dave Johnson. I got interested with the wire sculpture on a site that I saw. It's called Fantasy Art, and this is a British sculptor, and he uses very thick stainless steel wire, and that particular one might be 6 feet tall. And so I liked it, so I made a dandelion. And then the rest of it, I figured I better start with trees first.
Now what kind of wire is that?
It's aluminum wire, anodized, and the color is electroplated on. This is 18 gauge, it's about 1 millimeter, and the palm trees are 20 gauge, which is about 0.8 of a millimeter.
Where do you get that?
Amazon,
That little thing?
No wonder Jeff Bezos is buying another half mansion.
well, I tried purchasing it directly and through a company that sells it, and it was about a penny a foot more, and then delivery. But Amazon, you know, I think there's a warehouse at the end of the street. Because this stuff shows up, you know, practically the next day. But this is the dandelion, and this artist is amazing. I mean, he's working with wire that's almost as big as your finger. And so I gave up on that idea, and I worked with. I made a jig. This is pretty much a 3-minute video of me twisting up the wire. But what I do is I wind a whole bunch of pieces depending on the length. I guess this is probably 18 inches up to 2 feet. And I just wind 50 of them at a time. Take the screw out and cut them into pieces. And I end up with the straight pieces, and then I start twisting them like that. And somebody suggested that I shave my knuckles, but no.
How did you decide on that length of 15 to 18 inches? Was that trial and error?
Trial and error. Most of the leaves are 16 inches, and once the leaf is all twisted up, you end up with about a 2-inch piece left over, and that's 20 loops.
Now, is there a formula for the 20 loops? Why have you decided on 20?
I was running out of wire. And with that one there, once I got approximately 20 loops, and I'll show you that gets twisted up.
What's the name of those pliers? They don't look like needle nose pliers.
They are needle nose, but what they are is they're round.
Oh, okay.
And depending on how big a loop I want, I just bring it down
Oh,
the thing and give it a twist. And it's kind of a rhythm. This particular tree has over 400 leaves on it, and it takes about 3 minutes a leaf, so there's 20 hours right there. And I don't do it all at once.
Do you create your trees just out of your imagination, or do you look at bonsai trees or real life tree?
I do have a
full-size
bonsai
trees.
book, and of course online you can see a zillion. I've been over to Bonsai West, and that's where I get some of the containers.
Where is Bonsai West?
In Acton, they're on Great Road.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, beautiful place. But just winding these up, and then these are 20 inches long, which would be the tree. I put a zip tie on it to decide how long a root I want to have. And I made a telephone pole, $175. I should have consulted Queen before I did those, but that's just silly. And,
so you put the zip tie on it to keep the roots at a certain length, and this way it doesn't mess up the trunk.
correct. And I I usually do the roots afterwards. But as I'm working on the tree, so I make the leaves. That's two different types of twisting. One, that is where I just twist it over and over again the same way. And then this one, I wrap it under once, over once. And it makes it almost like a bicycle chain. It takes a little bit of force to twist this. You get the trunk started, pull out a few pieces, and that starts the first branch. And you try to get them where they come through. That way it won't unwind once you get it started. Just other views of the start of the leaves. And with the over and under, it makes a flatter leaf. And that's two of the different types.
Do you have a studio?
No, I work out of my home in my den that you have to walk into it like this. There's so much junk in it.
That sounds a lot like a studio.
And another type is, I take the wire, I made a little tool, I take the wire and I just wrap 25 or 30 turns around it, leaving a little bit of a tag on the end. And then pull it off this tool and stretch it out. And you stretch it so it's nice and even all the way around, and then coil it up the same as the other types. And it looks a little bit different. And then I tried, so I had 3 of them. Then I stretched the spring out and then smooshed it with a rolling pin. And it came out okay, but I haven't used that in any one of the trees.
And when you do the trunk of the tree and you have it around that rock, how do you attach that? Is there a certain...
This rock here, I went to a granite counter store.
Oh, okay.
And I asked them if they could, I had it marked where I want the hole, and I asked them if they could do it, and while I was talking to the receptionist, the fella came back out with the hole drilled.
Oh my gosh.
And, it took him 2 minutes. And that, putting some of the roots down through and then cementing it in place.
So what type of cement is used in that?
I use the same material that would, it's called thin set.
Okay.
It's used to put tile.
Okay.
And it's a very, very thin mortar. And then the rest of the roots are tied together underneath the cement, and then it holds it all together.
And you said there's a hole they drilled through that?
There's a 3/8 inch
also?
hole right through the rock.
Plus the cement.
So they're using a water drill to go through that?
I guess, yeah. And there are 4 different types of leaves. And that was the start of this tree here, and there are over 400 leaves. And, I make a few and then stop when my hands cramped up.
Do you ever start one way and then change your mind and change the tree halfway through?
Not really. I have made adjustments, and I have a pair of pliers that are flat, and that's for straightening out mistakes. They're not mistakes, they're design changes.
That's it.
Yes.
And while I was doing the trees, I gave a little try with Dreamcatcher. And I've been thinking of putting an owl, little wire formed owl on one of the branches.
Now, is that copper wire in that, that's shiny?
It's the same as this, it's all aluminum.
Okay.
Aluminum wire anodized. There's copper color, red, green, and the silver is it's a 20 gauge. It's a little bit skinnier, and that's what I made the dead pine tree out of.
Do you do commissions?
Not yet.
I was just,
I basically, I'm doing this for fun. If I happen to sell one of them, fine. This one was one of the first ones that I did. I added some leaves to it. Just hang in a window.
David, have you thought about why you do trees as a subject matter, say, versus animals or something?
I don't know how to make animals.
No? But I mean, is there anything significant about the tree form to you, do you think? Or?
I like the bonsai trees, so I thought I'd give it a whack. And that's the start of this one. I used 3 different color wire: a red, a light gold, and a darker gold. And I would twist 2 or 3 of them together and add them to a tree. There's one with several of the leaves together, and just add it to a branch and twist it up. And that's my summer workstation. And I built a granite counter out on the deck, and we spend most of the summer out there.
I didn't really think a sculptor would be plein air.
And the start of the tree is just, I decide how many branches I want to have and work from the bottom. It might be 10 or 12 pieces of wire for the lower branches, and then I reduce it until they're all gone. And that's the beginning of the palm frond. And what I do is I make that loop, that's about 1 inch long, and attach it to the trunk pieces, squeeze that loop closed, and then just start, I end up with about 20 loops. I make a side loop, and then around the brown wire, 1 complete turn so it comes out the other side, and then do another one and push them together, and that's 8 of the palm fronds. Just a simple little tree. Oh, that's the end of that. It's plaster of Paris, and I just twist some of the roots around. I didn't want them exposed. And plaster of Paris, I muck it up with, a screwdriver or something. And then I painted it with watercolor. Kind of looks like something that a cat hacked up.
You know, like that.
And the first tree I did was some very thin wire. I just wanted to give it a try. This is 26 gauge. It's only a few thousandths of an inch thick. But that was the beginning. And what I did was I mounted it on some driftwood. I have a home on Long Lake in Maine, and about almost 200 years ago, they built the Cumberland-Oxford Canal, and there were 27 sets of locks all the way up to Sebago from Portland. And then once you cross Sebago Lake, you go into the Songo River, and they put one final lock on the Songo River, and it raised the level of the Long Lake about 6 feet. And there's some stumps along my waterfront that have been underwater for 200 years. And I pull them apart and grab the pieces, and they really look interesting.
Now, did you ever do art not standing straight up, like a wall hanging?
Well,
Not like that, but like that piece of driftwood you have there, and having the tree come up going this way, the other way.
no, I have not. Well, this is pretty much everything I've done. This is my,
Repertoire?
and
Oh, wow, look at that. Yes.
it looks kind of gnarly. And that's a close-up of one of the copper trees. This one here. And I mounted this on just a piece of construction lumber. And before I mounted it, I ground it out and made it look like rock. And put some cement on the bottom and felt so it wouldn't scratch. And they're fairly durable.
Now, are those wires joined together in the bottom underneath the felt?
Yes, that kind of anchors it, and I drilled a hole. Some of them go right straight through, and that anchors it. But they're all kind of tied together underneath.
And what kind of spacer did you put it in between the wood and the felt? Looks like a quarter-inch spacer or something?
Well, no. What it is I made a form out of just a strip of aluminum.
Oh, okay.
Aluminum flashing, and then I filled it with cement.
Oh, okay.
Thin set, and got it nice and level, and then I glued the felt on just to protect the tables. And that was the beginning of the wooden rock. It's just a piece of 2x10. And that was the second tree I made, and it's sitting on a coffee table that my wife and I found the base. It's a cook stove, kitchen cook stove, and it was in the woods, all rusty, at an antique shop. And I took it apart, sandblasted it, and painted it, and then put 5/8 inch thick smoked glass on top.
Nice.
And the base cost me, it was under $20, and the glass was $145. And I like taking things that were something else and turn it into something useful. When I did this tree, the rock that it's mounted on was too low, so I just put in a couple of strips of styrofoam, and it got it up to the right level. And then I put some plaster Paris in a few of the roots, and that anchors it, and then I can, it makes it a little easier to work with and twist up the roots and where it stays in place.
What's your moss?
The moss is from Michael's. You could buy packages of it, and I could probably get a contract with them with my front lawn. But I just grab a piece and put some glue and squish it in. A lot of times I use Mod Podge, and that was mixed with glue. And the roots are random. You know, sometimes I make changes. That's with the moss. And on the base of these, I add a little bit of felt on the legs.
So that whole project from start to finish on that green tree is how many hours?
Well, this tree, just making the leaf, twisting up the leaves, was 20 hours.
And then assembly would take how many hours?
Oh, another 10 or 12. You know, arthritis dictates
Yeah.
how long I work on it. That was, I was laying out how I wanted the roots, and the first part of it was already through the hole. And once I got it all twisted together, the roots underneath, I used clay for the shape of the base, and poured the cement. It was held in place with some clamps.
How long have you been doing this?
Less than a year.
Oh,
Wow.
It was just, when I see something, you know, anything that anyone creates, I'm really interested in it, and maybe I'll try that. And neglecting other projects. And I level off the clay before I pour the thin set in it. The tree is already mounted. That's up at the lake. And I was getting ready to cure cement.
yeah, right.
That's what that county gets used for.
And these are just some random pictures of, you know, sitting on a beach towel.
Do you work on several at one time?
No.
or It's always one start to finish?
Yes. If I did it several at a time, I'd probably lose interest in half of them. And I like I got the rock out of the woods up behind my house, and you know, it's untouched by machinery or anything like that. It had some lichen on it, and you know, it was nicely weathered. rather than just a pure piece of stone, you know, fresh stone. That, I kind of tailored it after a red pine, which they kind of fight all the other trees and don't grow very fast. And that's it's sitting on a hatchboard table that I made based on my career of sailing. I spent 35 years on the ships. And this is just so it shows up with the trees on either side.
Looks like it belongs.
Did you do any artwork on the ships in a different form?
No, because it was a 24-hour-a-day type job. Working my way up, it was all ship. You know, when I was on the ship, I was 100% heart and soul the ship. When I went home, I forgot about it.
So what type of ships were you on? These big carriers that?
Tankers, oil tankers, and the last 18 years I was skipper of a 50,000-ton chemical tanker and worldwide trade. You know, when I was young, I told my mother that when I grow up, I want to be a sailor, and she said, no, you have to choose. You can't do both. So I went to sea.
So what is your opinion of the boat accident in Baltimore?
Yeah. Not my job. And that swing on that little fall tree, I made it out of just a piece of wood and some wire.
My husband had someone say of his bonsai tree that he could see himself in a hammock in the tree
Oh,
with a beer.
in one tree?
Yeah.
How do you?
No, well, two strong
Yeah.
branches.
I saw a cartoon where there was a little island and there were two trees, and then there was another island right next to it. And the guy was sleeping, he was a castaway, leaning against one of the trees. And all of a sudden a big crate washed up on the little island. And he was about to wade across and a shark came through. And so I don't know where he got the saw, but he cut one of the trees down and made a bridge, walked across the bridge, got the crate, opened it up, and it was a hammock. So he only had one tree.
Have you ever made one, these all look about a foot tall. Have you ever made one much bigger?
I have some wire up in Maine. I didn't bring it home. And what it is the entrance wire for your power to a house. I found it at the side of the road, and it's pretty thick wire. It's about as thick as this. And I want to make like a 3 or 4 foot tree out of it. But some of it is you can only bend it maybe 3 times and it snaps because it's very ductile aluminum. But I'll give that a try one of these days.
I was gonna ask the opposite, if you've ever made anything really little, like earrings or bonsai earrings or something like that.
No.
No.
That's a little one.
So,
The swing on this one was an afterthought, but I think it's kind of cute. This is a piece of driftwood. It's about 8 to 10 inches long that my granddaughter found in Lake Sebago a few years ago. And she thought it looked like a ray gun. And at the time, and when she came up last year, my daughter lives in North Carolina. When she and the twins and her husband came up, she couldn't believe that it was still around, the piece of driftwood. So I added the tree for her and sent it down. And it's just kind of windswept. And it's a small piece of driftwood. And I put a few screws into the bottom of the piece of wood, and that anchored the thin set mortar. I make a little aluminum frame and pour the cement and then glue on the felt.
If someone were interested in learning how to do this, would you ever teach a class?
I suppose.
It takes a lot of patience.
I've done a lot of things that take a lot of patience. And my wife has a lot of patience.
Before starting this, what other kinds of things have you done? Other types of art?
I dabbled a little bit with watercolor, which I've kind of gotten away from. When I was in the 7th grade, we had art class once a week, and I did a watercolor of a little sloop with one man in it and sailing away, and my art teacher told me at the time, he said, "Don't stop painting." He liked it so much. I don't know where the painting is now, but I stopped. And that's the beginning of, I believe, this tree, with the branches added. And what I do is I break it down and then put sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves together, twist them together, and add them in one spot or another. And
So is it bottom up or top down?
bottom up, because if you do top down, they're in the way. And you can just fold the branches up, but it's easier if you work on the bottom. And there's usually couple of little pieces that are left over that aren't twisted in. And I use some very small wire cutters, and I reach in and I try, sometimes I can't even see it, and I try to cut it off. If a little piece cuts off and it's a good cut, you'll hear a nice crisp click. If you hear a thud, you cut the branch off. I don't know why I took that picture on the road. It's kind of hard to see. And that was the start of this one. I was adding the branches from bottom down, or bottom up. And there's 20 hours in just making the leaves. And I had tried that in the members show over at the library, and because I had the cabinet all to myself, I added this tree, and it wasn't attached to anything, so I mashed some clay in the bottom of it to hold it in place. The palm trees I call Margaritaville, Jimmy Buffett, of course. And that's the beginning of one of the palm fronds. And there's about 20 wraps and a circle around the individual wire. And then you bend them toward the end, make it look like a real palm frond, give it a little curvature to it, bend, and I tried making a dead palm frond, but the wire was too thick, and it was hard to work with. I needed the 20 gauge wire. And once the palm fronds are tied together, I take a brown and a black and just wind it around and around and around all the way to the bottom, and it makes it look a little more like a palm tree. Margaritaville again. The single tree. And that's not quite Margaritaville. It's Maryville. And
Well, yeah, you could probably get a little Christmas lights going through there.
that was a nice addition to the to our creche. And that's somewhere in the South Pacific. That's actually a watercolor of the salt marsh up in Essex, Mass. That I did. That's one of the first watercolors that I've done recently. And of course the dream catchers. There's almost no end to what I could do with those. And I decided to make the compass rose. Of course, I use the compass all the time. And once I twisted the 4 or 5 pieces together all the way around, I was having trouble getting it perfectly round. So I patented the circle stretcher. And push them down on that, and it makes them nice and round. And to tie the various pieces of this together, I made a clip that's about 1 inch long, bent a loop, made a little bit curvature, and that holds the 2 pieces together. And kind of looks like the cables on the Golden Gate Bridge. And various colors. Compass rose, very simple. And that's the studio cat. He's my helper. He was a feral cat that was born under our porch about 7 years ago. And at the time we had a golden retriever that would, at 4 o'clock in the morning, would run downstairs and wait to see the cat outside at some point. And after about 6 months, the cat came in, and it's been our cat ever since.
Does she walk all over
He-
your art? Does he walk all over your art?
No, he just watches. He's a good good studio cat. This is something I made for both my, I made two of them, one for my son and one for my grandson, both kids. He's 50. It's made out of a bulkhead lamp from a ship. And I bought the lamps and they were $17. And I thought, that's kind of cool. Then I went to Home Depot to get the plumbing fittings, and just each piece was $5, $6. And with making two of them, it was 8 of each. So it got kind of expensive. I wired in an under-counter light,
Oh, wow.
and I put Lego people as a crew.
That's the thing I would get from you if you were doing commissions.
Pardon?
That's the sort of thing I would buy from you if you were doing commissions. That's
Well, it was
amazing.
funny, with the Lego people, I didn't have any, of course my son has, and Dorn have tons of Legos. And I went up to the mall, and they had a display of a Millennium Falcon, and it had astronauts in it. And I told told the woman that, you know, I was interested in getting some of the astronauts. And she kind of looked to the left and looked to the right, and she lifted the cover to the display case, grabbed a handful of astronauts, and gave them to me. And I was afraid that alarms would go off, and I walked out the door. But they were fun.
So those are LED lights coming out of the back?
They're flicker candelabra lights
Oh.
to make it look like flame.
How do you turn the battery on and off for the lights?
Well, there's a,
The switch? Oh, right, okay, cool.
yeah, it's a power cord.
That's a cute light.
Yeah, they do.
And I made the base out of just pine, drilled some holes, and put some wood putty on it, and then I had rubber gloves on, and I just mashed this stuff to make it look like the moon. And on the underside, I added some wood to make it look like the part of the controls.
How big is it?
The base of it is a foot in diameter, and it's about 18 inches tall.
Okay, so,
And the one I sent to my grandson in North Carolina, I built a very elaborate box for it, and UPS, it cost me over $50 to send it down there. So they got kind of expensive. Those are the plumbing fittings that I put the light fixtures in. You know, like a government project, why build one when you can build two for 3 times the price? And that was just before dinner. I washed all the parts to get the manufacturing oil off them, and then I put them in the oven to cook for a little while. When I was a kid, that's sitting on my dock.
oh, what?
And I came across that picture and with the crocodile, and it's young. And so I had to take a picture of one missing shoe.
As long as it was just the shoe.
Right.
Yeah, right. Well, he's already got just at the foot.
When I went on your website, I did see a lot of woodworking, which was really amazing. Have you been doing that for a long time?
Yes. Well, when we got married 53 years ago,
In the apartment.
in our apartment, I built a coffee table, and then I also built a wraparound desk for the den. Let me see. That's a desk that I made out of sapele mahogany, and the white strips to simulate the caulking on the deck is rock maple. And
It looks like a Chris Craft book.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea. And I went to an auto body shop looking for some finer sandpaper, because I was using like 120 grit. And he gave me, the body shop was moving, so he gave me a package of sandpaper that was 3,000 grit.
Wow.
And you can see the reflection of the fluorescent light. You could almost read the wattage. I do international code flags of all the letters. That's, of course, Johnson, that's on my deck up in Maine. And they've been outside for 15 years.
I want to also mention who built that house.
Oh, wow.
In my spare time.
Such a slouch.
Those were the simulated the ribs of the boat, and that holds the desk up on one end, the bow, and there's a file cabinet on the other end. And it came out pretty good. Those are code flags for my neighbor's name, Locke, L-O-C-K-E. That's a coffee table that's down in North Carolina that has 300 wine corks under glass. And my daughter has the table, and her husband put one of the car seats on the table, and the wind blew the car seat over and smashed the glass. So they had to get a new piece of glass. And I think it's on my website. My daughter was redoing the corks out on the porch, and she went to work. She's a doctor of physical therapy. And when she came home, her chocolate lab had eaten about half the corks. and chewed them up and spit them out. And the dog said he didn't do it. That's a model of the Blue Nose. It was a kit. I didn't really build much of it, but I built the case that it sits in, and that's one piece of glass in the front.
And there's a woodcut to the left.
Oh, yes, there's a block print of the Taria Topan, which was a ship that sailed out of Salem, Massachusetts, and my son Christopher made the block print, and that is number 1 of 10. That's another neighbor, Wolf's Whiskey Oscar, Lima, Foxtrot, Echo. And I built a table, it's on my website. A friend had type trays, old-fashioned type trays, and I made a table around it and under glass, so you can, and Jim had all kinds of trinkets to fill it up.
Was Jim a member? Was the art society? Jim Gallagher?
No, he was not.
He was not.
He was a local graphic artist. He lives down in Osterville now. He used to live in Chelmsford. This was a long project, starting out with taking down 24 feet of chimney that probably would have burned the house down eventually. It was very poorly made.
Is that the liner? Is that?
That's the liners. I took the top off the chimney, and for 12 feet, the liners were totally unsupported.
So
And you can
side
see-
by side?
You could, well, one was the fireplace and one was for the furnace and whatnot.
Oh.
And I took the chimney down because I put in a high-efficiency furnace and that just vents through PVC out through the wall. And there was no heat going up from the water heater or the furnace going up the chimney. And one December, I discovered that it was very, very cold in my den. That's an exciting cat.
So the cold air was coming in down from the chimney?
Oh, all the brickwork was just ice cold, ice cold. And that was the result of, after I took down the chimney, I put in a double-sided gas fireplace and did the tile work in front and the face of the fireplace.
And did you use one of those, did you put in a new liner to vent the gas? Stove?
I took the fireplace right down to the living room floor.
Well, how do you vent the gas? Is there a?
That goes out through the side and through the porch.
Oh, that's great. I like the painting, it looks like Mary Rose.
That is original oil painting by George Bletch of Gloucester and the West Coast. It had been my wife's parents, and we kind of inherited it. It's Bass Rocks off of Gloucester.
Yeah, I remember. Like, it's been my honeymoon.
But that's an original oil painting.
I know that you do this for fun and not really for profit, but are your works for sale?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Take the card, give me a call.
Okay. You have the QR code up for your website. If you could put that back up again. It's just astounding, and it's a little hard to keep track of everything that you do. But these trees are amazing. It's been wonderful to see all of how you work them and how you do it. But if anybody is interested in your trees or your flag, house numbers, or names, should they just go to your website?
Yes. Yeah, there's a contact page on the website, and if you take a card, you can email me directly.
Fantastic. Does anyone else have any questions?
What's your next act?
Pardon?
What's your next act?
Whatever you wrote me into.
I'm just curious, what are the occupational hazards of working with wire? Do you get a lot of, stabbings and?
No, not really. You have to be careful with the ends, eyes. But it's very smooth. and you get a few calluses when you really try to twist this up.
Do you have to wear gloves when you're doing that?
Sometimes I tried it, but I couldn't get quite the feel of what I wanted to do. And in the summer, the oil from your hands gets on the wire, so I just wash it wash the tree in soapy water, and it gets the hand oils off. And because I was concerned about corrosion, where this is anodized aluminum.
So,
And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.